So it's official. I am moving from going into Endwalker as a healer main into a melee DPS main with the announcement of the Reaper. This video is really just gonna be me and name it fangirling over this and giving your or our reactions to it. And I don't even know what to start on other than the fact. Actually, I'll start on the fact that this feels very Bloodborne. As soon as Yoshi P walked onto that stage, I'm like, this feels very Bloodborne, which is an aesthetic and a game that I at least can say that I love so much. It's like I haven't played it as extensively as many other people, but oh boy, that's an aesthetic. I love it.
Yeah, honestly, it's super cool. I love the scythe. Honestly, like seeing Yoshi P wear that costume was really awesome. Like honestly, you can tell he's so passionate about the game and passionate about really putting on a great show for the fans and making them an awesome class. So
Mm-hmm.
it looks really cool. I'm really excited for that.
And you want to know what? I was actually just talking about this to a friend, is that there is a huge difference between concepts and delivery. And how to say it, they start by showing us the video, obviously. That's how Final Fantasy XIV devs work, and they are a blessing. And then they showed us the concept art. If I just got the concept art, I would be wondering, like, let's say that it was just for a different game, I'd be like, this concept art is really cool. We will never see anything like that translate into game. And so I was literally just talking to a friend about this and how that insanely cool concept was turned from that concept art, the idea of having a void sent behind you as like a guardian and a protector, into actual gameplay. And I'm like, these devs deliver, and I'm like, I mean, it sounds so cliche to say mind blown, but it's like they deliver. They constantly deliver, and I don't know what else to say.
It looks sick. Honestly, like I'm gonna reserve like my final judgment until I've actually like played the class to see if it's something
Oh
that I like
yeah.
and if the gameplay is enjoyable. But like just based on what I've seen, and the brief I guess like when they should demo the animations, it looks awesome. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I really like it.
Oh, the
And yeah,
animations.
I would
Oh.
agree with what you said. There's so many times when I've seen concept art for games, and then I've just been disappointed. So I try not to even get hyped up anymore
Mm-hmm.
because of that. Because I feel like if you do that, you're just asking for disappointment. But no, they really did a good job of making the class actually like reflect the concept art. So it looks really cool.
Oh, it's so cool. The actual gameplay, like the animations, are just they're so flashy with like the neon green with the neon pink, and then you have like the freaking void scent like coming up. I'd love to learn their name, so that I could say something more than like the void scent behind you, but that's probably gonna come out through the story like Dark Knight with Frey. But I need to say that this actually feels like such a beautiful tie-in to the lore. See, I was thinking like it would be something like a Reaper, and a lot of the things were right, but we aren't really getting the like necromancy body things. But I still think that it is tying into that lore because fundamentally, Edda and necromancy had extensive connections to the Void. The Void has always been taboo, and like even going through something like Tamtar Deepcroft or through something like Palace of the Dead, Void, 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 Void. It is everywhere. In fact, you just finished a run of World of Darkness leveling up a class, and even you've got experience with the Void, and so now we're seeing the Void brought in as a core part of the job, and as someone who's played this game for so long, that's a wow factor to me. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do think it's really cool to be seeing that. Yeah, honestly, like I was thinking, like maybe really wonder, like I don't even remember where like the Dark Knight gets its power from. I guess that's more like the darkness within than the void, but this is just straight from
Mm-hmm.
like the void. So it's more like shadow magic, almost like some like I don't know, cool like demonology warlock kind of thing.
Yeah,
I guess it
exactly.
doesn't have pets or anything though, but it is like just drawing on like
Well, it quote
dark
unquote doesn't
forbidden
have any
powers.
pets,
So,
but the pet's like
so
built into
that's
the
cool.
kit. I think that this is definitely a way that they're going to be going forward with pet classes. I think just based on everything we've seen and heard and my past experiences, but not this isn't the video for it. But like you do have the pet, but it's just a part of like your own kit. So it's like you don't have like that delay, which I think is actually very healthy to see in the Reaper. I think that it's really still healthy.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. If people will actually be actively controlling it, or if it's just going to be like you just press a few buttons and it gets summoned and it just kind of does its own thing. It's like the animations are there, but you're not really, actively moving it too much.
Which I think is going to be super nice. And I think that honestly, with what we saw in the gameplay, that it really flows. I mean, honestly, when talking about the gameplay and how it like appears, it's really reminding me. For anyone who watches anime out there, I definitely have watched a few, and Death Note is an anime, and it had a main character called Kira, where he had a shinigami behind him named Ryuk, and really the Shinigami, which I suppose translates directly to Death God or God of Death. This Ryuk character was just bored and wanted to like get on board and was just like, hey, I'm gonna give you the power of death and I'm gonna like stand behind you in here and you put a name into this book and they will die. And it's really interesting because I think that it's even diversifying the lore of the Void. I think that this brings up so many questions that I'd like to do a deep dive in, even on its own video, where it's like, are there different parts of the Void that want to act differently? Like, is there a part of like the Void that is like wanting to fight against the Void because they're like, hey, we don't agree with what you want to do? Maybe it's an evolution in the Void just over time, just being like, hey, we moved from being like mindless, like I'm thinking almost like Nier Automata with the machines lore for anyone who's familiar, just like moving from being kind of like mindless to like getting a little bit more cognizant, being like, hey, this doesn't really line up, and like fighting against it. Or maybe it's just an entity so wildly powerful in the Void that they're just like, I'm bored. Like, it's like we see very clearly in the trailer that it's literally attacking Void, like other Void entities. So it's like, I don't know. I think that tie-in's so cool, at least for me.
Yeah, it is super interesting. That, like, and honestly, I don't think they've really even explored that much of the lore of the Void. I mean,
A
besides like
little
obviously the World of Darkness, Time to Deepcraft, all these things,
Void
but I never
Arc.
really
It keeps cropping up, but not too much. Like we're
I
seeing
mean,
exploration.
yes, but it's not like explored that much. But
Mm-hmm.
it's obviously going to be explored more. Like you see the Void Arc like even coming back, you know, and in the trailers for Endwalker, and you see what the heck is his name, Xenos, again piloting that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's clear the like you know the Void is going to be central to the lore of Endwalker. So
At least
it'll
in some
definitely
part,
be
yeah.
interesting. It will have to be in some way.
Which I think is going to be super cool. And honestly, I need to make a short on it, which is just that floating entity at the start, like this void scent. Just like, I'm just going to call it like Shinigami for now on, because honestly, I think that's what's going to catch on in the community. See the Shinigami like floating at the start and like just be derpy and whimsical and wee, I'm floating, wee. I don't know. I'm a sucker for that. I thought that was so funny. I don't know. Maybe I'm just stupid. I don't know if you've laughed at that, but I have. It's so whimsical. It's like so carefree, and then it's so serious in combat. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it is a little bit ridiculous to see him like just like spinning around like that.
I love it. I honestly think that like I like the personality of this already. Like without any story, I'm just like, oh, it's like super serious and super deadly, but super derpy and silly. I don't know.
The real
That's what I
question
got.
here is this edgier than Dark Knight?
Yes. That took like
Okay.
no
That'd
brain
be that,
effort.
that would be an interesting thing to ask the community. Just be like, what do you guys think? Edgier than Dark Knight?
I honestly
Maybe
think that it's cooler. I mean, we haven't seen the brand new skill showcase for the others, so I mean, there is so much to be
yes.
explored, so there might be more, but I could say, based off of what we currently see, and based off of what we are seeing now, there is. I choose Reaper in a heartbeat, honestly. I love the Dark Knight, but this is just insane. It's just like, even talking about gameplay, let's talk about that a little bit. Is like the fusion between you and the Shinigami is so cool. And like the combinations of like the 1-2 strikes or the 1-2-3 combos of attacks. I'm not sure how that really plays into it, but like the Shinigami attacking with you, then the fusion, like the demonology warlock metamorphosis. You'd know more on that than me. Or doesn't Demon Hunter get metamorphosis too? It's just like being able to fuse with the Shinigami to become like a super powerful entity is like,
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. I think that's like one of their like strong cooldowns in WoW. Is the Demon Hunter has like a metamorphosis ability where they become like a demon. So that would be potentially similar if there's like a cooldown where you fuse with this Shinigami Void Scent and that kind of like powers you up for a bit. That would be
See,
similar
I
to
think
that.
that's
So
so cool. To me, that is so cool. I mean, part
it
of
is
me is
cool.
wondering, I should not dabble this deep into the lore because this is going to blow up the video, so I'll be really quick on it. But it's like, we know that the Void was a world just like ours, and that it was basically messed up from the interference of the ancients. And so I'm wondering, like, is this the version of us from that world? And then the metamorphosis, the combination of us plus them, is like when we went through the story and like fused with ourselves on the first with Ardbert. I mean, that's where mind is going with this. I'm just like, we know that the Void was a world. It's like maybe we came across ourselves like the equivalent to a warrior of light on this other world. Maybe I'm big braining it. Maybe I'm playing 3D chess with 5D chess with myself or something. But that's where my
That's
mind's
like
going.
some deep Inception level stuff, you know.
I know,
That's
but that's
like,
where my mind's going seeing this. It's like, why was a void sent attack another void sent? Either
I mean,
there's difference in the void, or they're gaining consciousness, or they're revolting, rebelling, or they want to serve a greater good. Like, they realize, oh, the end is literally upon us. We better, like, smarten up and actually help this warrior of light. And maybe this one's just like, sees the writing on the wall and is like, yeah, you guys keep doing your weird void things and getting in the way. I'm actually going to make a difference.
okay,
I mean, there's got to be a
yeah, well,
reason why it would do
yeah.
that.
Or it could just be like the entire day of existence will stop, including the void. So it's like,
Yeah,
okay, well,
exactly.
now we have to care about this. We literally care about nothing, but except now nothing will exist, so we care about this now.
Exactly. It's
I don't
just
know if that
like,
makes sense.
especially like based upon the lore that we know, it's just like their world was basically annihilated. Like there's so little of it left,
Oh,
and so it's just like I could see why they would be like, hey, we need to intervene. But I'm getting too deep. But I can say I am beyond impressed with this. It's like the concept alone is so impressive, but the execution that we saw, the Final Fantasy 14 devs, I've said it so many times, they aren't playing. I mean, they're obviously playing their own game. That's not what I mean. Like, I mean, they're not messing around. They're not fooling around. They are not just throwing out little concepts here and there. They are actually freaking delivering. And I'm like,
they do
I'm
a good
blown
job.
away.
The game is incredibly fun. So
Oh my god, it's so incredible. And seeing this, it's just like, how can you take a concept like that and warp it into something this cool?
yeah, honestly, I've been pleasantly surprised with Final Fantasy
Oh
in
my
my year
god,
of playing it.
it's
Yeah,
so
it's
impressive.
great.
And they're delivering. Endwalker. But I mean, that's all I have to say is Reaper, blown away. Delivery, complete delivered. They delivered.
They sure did. It looks amazing. It's really cool.
Mhm.
Honestly, like I don't know. Maybe this is too much, but I almost wonder if like some of like the appearances of like the tome gear was almost like hinting towards there being like a Reaper release, because like the tome, remember the tombstone gear for the last patch? It all looks kind of like Dark Souls like with all like
I think
the
it's that the devs kind
robes
of
and
wanted to
stuff.
do that. I
Yeah,
think that they were just like, hey,
and-
you know what? We like this aesthetic. And honestly, I can't blame
yeah.
them. I freaking love that aesthetic because that's
But
some
it's
of
got
my
that
favorite
aesthetic.
gear.
It's got that aesthetic, and then they
It
you know
has
they
that
go on
aesthetic,
release.
absolutely. It's very
They
Dark Souls,
they
very
go on release
Bloodborne.
Reaper, and it's kind of got that look. So
I
I don't know. I
live.
wonder if that was a conscious decision.
I live. I live. But anyhow, I that's all that I have. Do you have anything more?
No, that's pretty much it. Like honestly, it's really cool. I'm
I'm hyped.
excited, and yeah, I loved watching the fan fest today. So
God, it's so
yeah,
cool. And there's more tomorrow, so I am so excited. But yeah, I'm just gonna cut off this video here. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone.
yeah. Thanks for listening.